Hi everyone, how are you guys doing? I hope you're doing okay. You're welcome to Fit for Marriage with Chris Chukwunyere. And today we're going to be talking about something I think is very important, very powerful, and it is about breaking generational cycles in love and parenting. Breaking generational cycles in love and parenting. A lot of us grew up in households where we didn't really express love. A lot of people grew up in households where we didn't feel safe. Everything that was done in terms of how we were raised was done based on fear. It was done harshly. There was tough parenting, sometimes abusive type of parenting. We don't particularly understand what it means to love. And becoming an adult, a lot of us have different type of trauma, that we have carried as adults, and a lot of people are still carrying those trauma. They've not come out of it yet. They've not healed from their upbringing. They've not healed from their past experience. And unfortunately, if they don't heal from those past experience, and if they don't deal with the feelings of hurt that they are experiencing or having in their hearts, they would also transfer that same way of loving, that same way of parenting to their children, and also it would determine how they love their spouse. So it's important to talk about how to break free from these types of generational cycles, because what a lot of people call generational curses sometimes are not generational curses. They are just templates that are transferred from one generation to the other. They are just way of life. They're just culture, tradition, values that have been transferred from one generation to the other. And so it's important that as adults who are dating, who are in marriage relationships already, it's important to not carry those things that are limiting, those things that didn't add value to parenting, didn't add value to upbringing, didn't add value to marriage. When it comes to your parents, it's important not to carry or learn those things. You've already learned them because, of course, you were taught or you were treated that way. So you already have it in your subconscious. It's important to identify them and see how to break free from them, because breaking free from generational cycles is important when it comes to love and parenting. So generational cycles could be emotional absence. You had parents who were not really emotionally available for you. You probably had a father who was absent, who always went to work before you wake up, from sleep, and then he comes back after you've gone to bed. And even when, they're interacting with you, you didn't feel that emotional connection with your parents. And that's why a lot of children are not close to their parents as adults. Parents want their kids to come home with the grandchildren, but they're not coming back home. And the reason is because they were never emotionally connected. The parents were, emotionally absent. And so they didn't have any, good relationship with their parents. And so if you don't watch that, you may do the same to your own children, So emotional absence is very important. Emotional unavailability is one thing that we would also just talk about as part of the things that we experience or we experienced growing up. Some could be conflict avoidance or constant yelling. Some of us have parents who they were always yelling. Always yelling. That was the way they communicated with us. They were always yelling, shouting, screaming at us. Some parents didn't know how to handle conflict. Rather than talking and discussing about the issues, they avoid each other. They keep malice with each other for weeks, for some. for months, and it actually impacts on the relationship. And some of us grew up seeing that. For some people, it's harsh parenting without emotional connection. So you have parents who were always harsh towards you, who spanked you in the most abusive ways. There was no emotional connection. There was no way to even correct or discuss what you did. It was just about just spanking you, flogging you, and that was it. And for some people, it's marriage without communication, affection, or partnership. You never saw your parents hug each other. You never saw your parents kiss each other. You never saw your parents show affection. And so you've grown up to be that type of man or woman who really shows emotions, who really shows affection, who is emotionally unavailable. And so if you don't work on these things, you'd find out that you would begin to do those things even when you hated them. And it's an unconscious programming that has happened to you until you reprogram yourself, until you unlearn the things you've learned, by virtue of observation and the way you were treated. You may not be able to break free from it. So you have to intentionally see how you can break free from these generational cycles. There's something that I need to let you know. If you really want to break out of generational cycles or trauma that you face or conditioning or programming that you've had as a result of your background, your family, and your experience, it's important that you name that thing. Okay, so instead of saying that my mom was just tough, it's important to say your mom was harsh, your mom was abusive, because healing and breakthrough starts from when you name that particular situation. Don't just say that's how it is. Every child went through the same thing. No. Look at it and say my dad was absent, while I was growing up. He wasn't there emotionally. He wasn't there he wasn't available for me. He was distant. Because by the time you name something, you can actually understand how to deal with it. So if it's emotional neglect, if it's unresolved trauma, if it's fear-based love, it's important to name it so that you can begin to regain your power over yourself, over how you feel, and you can begin to walk the journey of healing. So what you could ask yourself in this situation is, what patterns in love or parenting do I want to break? If you don't feel emotionally connected with your children, or you're a distant father or a distant mother, it's something that you need to ask yourself. What pattern in love or parenting do I want to break? Another thing you would also ask yourself is, what habits am I carrying into my relationships without questioning them? Okay, because you could have learned a lot of things, you have been programmed a particular way, and you're carrying it into your relationship. And another thing could be, what hurts am I unconsciously passing on? Sometimes we don't know that we carry trauma that we are actually trying to pass on to our children and even pass on to our spouse. So it's important to ask yourself these questions, because once you name that thing, you gain control, and then you can begin to see how you can heal. Now, it's important to understand that healing is a journey. Healing is not an event. Okay, so healing starts with identifying what the situation is, identifying what the pain point is for you, how you're hurting, what is making you hurt, and then forgive, because you have to forgive your parents. You can't really make progress if you have not forgiven them. A lot of people avoid seeing their parents. They don't want to see their parents. They don't want to have any relationship to do with their parents because of the experiences they went through. It's important that you heal. It's important that you forgive, because forgiveness would catalyze healing. Forgiveness will catalyze healing. Forgiveness is the foundation upon which your journey of healing starts. Okay, so forgive your parents, forgive whoever had caused you a lot of hurt or had contributed to the unconscious programming that you have that is negatively impacting your family at the moment, or negatively, in fact, impacting your relationships. So forgiveness is important. There are a couple of steps that I would recommend that you take to help with your healing journey if you want to break these generational cycles. Number one is counseling or therapy. Counseling or therapy is important. You need to engage a professional who would help diagnose, to identify the areas that you have been broken, you have been hurt, you have been damaged. You need a professional to be able to diagnose that. Definitely they would go back to your past, go back to your upbringing. Because they are trained professionals, they know how to help diagnose and provide effective steps or things that you need to do to help in your healing journey. It's important that you reframe, your beliefs about love, about your worth, about safety, because a lot of people grow up in a place where they never felt safe because they were always hurt, they were always abused and all of that. So you need to reframe your mind. You need to renew your mind, about some of these things. And that's why a professional therapist or counselor is very important. The second thing I recommend is that you journal, or you write or you reflect. So journaling and reflection is important. Have a journal where you write down your experience. Have a journal where you write down the things you went through, the things you want to change, the things you feel you're angry about, the things you feel hurt about. Because when you begin to journal, it helps you to easily identify the area of pain or the area of hurt or the area that you really want to change. So write, journal, just reflect. Take time to think about your upbringing. Take time to think about your past. Take time to think about how you were treated, because that would help you. Because as you write your story, it helps create the foundation for you to rewrite your story. Okay, so that's very important. There is a past story, there's a present story, and there's a future story. In journaling, it helps to provide direction on where the pain sits, and where healing is needed for you. The third thing I recommend is grace for your parents. Grace for your parents. A lot of our parents raised us the way they thought was best. They raised us the way they thought was best. It wasn't like they hated us. Yeah, there are some parents who actually did hate their parents, but there are a lot of our parents who were not affectionate. They were not emotionally available because that was also how they were raised. They didn't know any better. But then one thing is clear: they loved us. Okay, your parents loved you, but they were not available because they wanted to provide. And so your dad was never always available, and he thought that was the best way to become a father, become a man, So it's important to just give grace to your parents. Forgive them, like I said initially, and just be that person who, would always honor them. Because when you honor your parents, it's guaranteed that you will live long on the earth. So don't allow hatred eat you up that you don't honor your parents. You can honor your parents without replicating the patterns, okay? You can honor your parents without replicating the patterns. They likely did their best, but of course their best was not enough. And that's why you're trying to change that generational cycle. That's why you're trying to break free from it and build a new culture. The fourth thing I recommend is to set boundaries. Set boundaries. Boundaries are very, very important in breaking cycles, So when you set boundaries that don't also encourage your parents to bring in those old traditions, those old cultures, the way they think, and bring it into your household or bring it into your family or your relationships, you help to protect your household, you help to protect your family as you try to build a new culture in terms of parenting, in terms of love. What it does is that it helps to protect you and it helps to also build an authentic relationship between you and your parents. So ensure that you create boundaries, and sometimes your parents may not understand what these boundaries are, but be firm about it, because you're the one who is breaking free from the past and you're creating a new future for yourself and your family. And the last thing I recommend is to have a community. Having a community of people who are going in the same direction is very important. Build healthy relationships. Don't build dysfunctional relationships. Don't build toxic relationships. Don't build relationships with people who are dysfunctional, who don't know where they're going to, who don't have a vision about their lives, who don't even want to change that generational cycle that they also experienced. But have a community of people that think alike, who also understand the importance of breaking generational cycles. The church community is one place that you can have, brothers come together, sisters come together, who think and discuss these things and see how, they can improve. Okay, so breaking generational cycle is one thing, okay, but it's also important to build a new legacy. It's important to build a new legacy. You may break free from the past, but if you're not intentional about building the future, your family or your children may not get the best of you. So you are also now intentional about building a future and creating a new legacy that when your children grow up to become adults, they'll be grateful for you because you loved them the right way and you actually were great parents to them. So it's important that you understand something. You have to choose that a marriage rooted in partnership is more important than power struggles. So those before us, their relationships were more about power, control. You have a more dominant man in the family. Whatever he says is law. But in this generation, and to build a better relationship, we must understand that partnership is key. Teamwork is key. It's not about power struggle. It's about understanding that we are a team. Parenting that is not nurturing, emotionally intelligent, and connected is a disaster. Okay, so you must choose to be that type of parent who connects with your kid, who is emotionally intelligent, because yelling, screaming, shouting, getting angry, and beating up your children is not the way to go, okay? So you have to be emotionally intelligent. You have to be that parent who nurture your children, okay? You have to be intentional about nurturing your children. And you have to build a home that everyone feels safe, okay? Everyone has to feel safe in your home. Everyone has to feel loved in your home. Everyone has to feel that they have great parents who listen to them, okay? Irrespective of who they are loved. They don't have to earn the love. They don't have to do something to earn your love. Okay, that's the kind of household that, you must build. And you must also tell yourself that I'm not my past, but I'm responsible for my future. I'm not my past. My past is my past. I have to deal with it. I have to break free from that generational cycle, and I have a future that I want to define. I believe that a lot of us would resonate with this particular video, because one way or the other, we must have had several experiences that were not really exactly palatable. And so if you still have some hurt feelings, if you still have some programming that that you're already transferring into your marriage, you're transferring into your parenting skill, it's important that you begin to deal with it now, break free from that generational cycle. These are some of the things that people call generational curses, because you see it from one generation, or you see a pattern existing from one generation to the other. Some parents, due to their lack of parenting style, they didn't have sex education with their children. They didn't educate their children early about sex, sexuality, their bodies, and all of that. Their children always, or their daughters always got pregnant pregnant as teenagers. And this happens from one generation to the other. And so people begin to tag it as a generational curse. It may not be a generational curse. It's just probably a knowledge gap in parenting, or the parenting style that each person had inherited from their parent, and they did the same thing, and so they got the same result. So it's important to understand that these things may not be generational curses, they're just cycles. And you can break free from them, you can heal from the hurt, and you can build a new legacy, a new culture, new values in your family, and you can raise whole kids and whole children who will turn into adults that will continue in the new legacy that you've built. I hope this helps you. Take the necessary steps and necessary actions as recommended, and I wish you the very best as you build a new relationship, you build a better marriage, and you raise amazing kids that will influence cultures, transform societies, and raise whole kids and build better families themselves. All right, guys, take care, and see you next time. Bye.